Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with Spawn number 77. I'm so glad to finally have this issue. This was one of those harder ones to find, so I want to give a shout out to my buddy Isaac who hooked me up with this. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. But yeah, Spawn number 77 is one of the harder issues to find. I'm not sure if it's because of the story or if it's because this magnificent cover by McFarlane and Greg Capullo, because whew, beautiful. The action figure too is a pain in the butt. I remember when I first saw it, they had two variants. They had the angel wings and they had a demon wing one. The demon wing one I think was more common. I didn't see many people jumping on that one, but I remember I was trying to get the angel winged version figure. And this was back when I was in college, so while the computer teacher's talking, I was sitting in the back doing an eBay bidding war and finally got the figure. So I may do the review on it later down the line, but I wanted to do the review on where this came from. So, beautiful cover aside, let's jump into this, because this was relatively an interesting comic book. There wasn't a whole lot of what happens. It's mostly build-up, but it's in a good way. But before we even start and all that, let's talk about who made this book. The writers were Todd McFarlane and Brian Holgan. Pencilers were Dwayne Turner. Inks, Danny Minke. And then lettering was Tom Orzanowski. Colors was Brian Haberlin, Andy Troy, Dan Kemp. And as we just said, Greg Capullo and Todd McFarlane did the cover. And of course, Spawn was created by Todd McFarlane. The print date on this was October 1998. So glad this is the first printing. Anyway, I like how the book just starts out, and I really appreciate how the art team really kind of kept the motif of how McFarlane started out in the beginning. Because if you look at it on a first glance, you cannot tell the difference. And I mean, there's some slight variations, which is always cool because you can kind of get different artists' interpretations. But nonetheless, I'm glad that they kept the feel. And just a beautiful opening page, and he's like, I want the truth. I want to know what's happening to me. And one thing I've always loved about Spawn, as far back as I can remember, is just the way that they always made the cape look magnificent, especially back in the day, just gorgeous work all around. So you come to find out that Spawn is starting to kind of become an empathic in a way, where he can feel all these dark nightmares and dreams. And it has a lot to do with what happened through, I think, Spawn 73 through 75. So as you read the issue, I'm glad that editor's note tell you where to go. And he's speaking to this man named Cog. And Cog's kind of like a mentor. You come to find out, spoiler alerts if you've not read this or any of the other Spawn stuff, which if you don't want that type of spoiler, pause this, go pick up the run, and then come back. And you're back. So Cog was once a hell spawn, like Al. And so he's trying to help Spawn through this. And he's like, you haven't learned to ask the right questions. So this character here kind of reminds me, I don't remember what his name was, but in the 97 Spawn movie, remember how, for those of you who have seen it, Spawn comes across someone who was once a hell spawn as well and kind of helps him in training and learning his powers. So that was kind of cool. I don't know if that was intentional, like if this character was inspired from the movies, because I haven't read a lot of Spawn. This is the first issue I've read in a long time. So nonetheless, it's kind of a cool idea. And I think the overarching idea of this book, of what I felt as I was reading it, has a lot to do with faith and redemption and what happens when you feel like you've hit the bottom of the barrel. So we come across this character named Bobby. I can't remember this dude's name, but man, he kind of looks like freaking, what's Carnage's real name? Something Cassidy. Cletus Cassidy. Look with that wild red hair. But anyway, Bobby is one of the alley followers of Spawn, because when Spawn came back from hell, he took residence in the alleyways, and they kind of has become the king of the homeless, and so they always look to Spawn. Spawn for answers. But Bobby had a friend named Boots, and there's something you find out about him in this book that I don't want to give away, but Boots dies. And so Bobby's like at the bottom of the barrel. He's trying to better himself, or at least he's kind of feeling that way, but he has a lot weighing on his soul. And that's what I always liked about Spawn is, yeah, it's dark, it's macabre, but McFarlane always found a way to kind of give that idea of faith. Like there's this woman that comes across, like they're begging money, and she goes, real change comes from within, friend. This character, I cannot remember his name, he's like, buzz off, lady, I can take care of myself. But then she looks to Bobby and she goes, how about you, sir? You look like you can use a friend. And I like how these faces, I mean, the hard grimness of the, living on the streets, you could see it. But then to see this hardened man start to cry, and he's like, yeah, thanks. Maybe I could. So you kind of have like the A and B story, like you would in a TV show. So the B story is Bobby, the A story is Spawn. And Cog takes him to this church that became a museum, and they have all sorts of different relics and history. And he's saying, I'm bringing you here because there's one historical part that I want you to learn. And then also there is a C story. There's an A, B, and C story, because then we follow Sam and Twitch. And I always enjoy them. At this point, I guess Spawn, like I said, it's been a while since I've read a lot of these issues, but Spawn cost them their jobs, so they're working as PIs now instead of cops. And Sam really has a chip on his shoulder about it. And he's like, I'll calm down when Spawn is behind bars. Oh man, I just hope that sucker tries to resist. And you just see him just, loading his gun, getting ready for it. And Twitch is more the voice of reason. And he's like, you need to calm down, sir. But they're arguing because they both have lost their jobs. He's like, I want you to understand something, sir. I'm only here to watch your back. I do not condone this excursion. Fine. So noted. So yeah. Sam, to me, reminds me a whole lot of Harvey Bullock, and I'm wondering if that was intentional, because I remember when I was younger, before I got in the comics, I'd seen the Spawn movie. Yes, that movie is not good, but it was like one of my intros into Spawn and Image Comics back in the day. And I remember Todd saying something to the degree of he got the inspiration from Spawn from Batman, saying what would happen if you had this superhero that was kind of like Batman, but was poor. Meaning, Spawn comes back and he has nothing. And that was kind of his base. So if that's the idea, I'm wondering if that's where he got the idea for Sam. Twitch, I'm not so much sure, but again, it's a great dynamic, kind of like this mutual hatred buddy cop thing going on. And of course, they cross paths with Bobby, because they know that Bobby is a drifter, and resides in the alleys where Spawn lives. And he's like, where is Al Simmons? And they try to give him a hard time about it. And he's like, I don't know, I haven't seen him. And he's trying to talk about how one of his buddy Bootsy's disappeared. And there's like, we're not cops, you have to contact the authorities. So I like how when there's like A, B, and C stories, like how they start to merge, you know what I mean? Because then it kind of makes the whole thing feel like a cohesive whole. And then of course the artwork drives the story. Yeah, there's a lot of talking in here, but it really helps enhance the story. So like, for example, here you're thinking, oh, those are a lot of text dialogues, but he's walking up to that place that lady gave him the card saying if you need some help or need a friend. And he goes, oh, I asked around about the lady. Some of the others got cards from her too, said she seemed pretty nice. I thought I might take a chance and check it out. Maybe get a little help. But I'm too late. The place is locked up for the night. Shouldn't have got my hopes up. I mean, I have no illusions. I know what I am. I'm a bum. A loser. Just some useless old relic tossed out by the roadside. And that was okay with me. I knew where I stood. I always figured that when you got nothing to lose. I always figured that when you got nothing to lose. But I was wrong. There's always something more to lose. So see, it's this internal dialogue, and it really helps enhance, like when he's kind of looking at himself in the reflection and he's thinking about what he thought, and then the look of pain on his face because he lost one of his best friends, and he's saying, Bootsy, if you really are an angel, I could really use some help right now. So again, this is where you find out that Cog was a Hellspawn. He removes his clothes and you're just like, oh boy, that is one ripped dude. And he kind of has the same battle marks that Spawn has. And I always liked those on the chest. I always thought that was a really cool design. And again, just the artwork. I mean, look at the hardness in this man's eyes. And a little bit like that he's determined because he does not want to be what he was supposed to be from... I always have a hard time talking about saying the devil's name in this book. Malagbla. Malaglia, blah, blah, blah. If you all can help me pronounce it down in the comments, I really would appreciate it because I've always had a hard time with that. So anyway, the red-haired guy, you find out something about him, and you see that Bobby's kind of starting to spiral once more. In the A story with Spawn, you come to find out that in order for Spawn to kind of become what he was intended to be, or to redeem himself, is he has to kind of become the king of hell. And Spawn even says the only way to stop being a hellspawn is to become the devil. So he has these choices that he has to make, where he wants to do that or try to be redeemed in heaven. And if he decides to go the route of hell, then he's going to lose a majority of his humanity. And this new thing where he's sensing all this darkness, something happens. There's a gunfight. Something happens. What do you want to know what happens? Make sure to pick up the comic book. But yeah, like I said, there's nothing like big and super revealing other than the choices that Spawn has to make. But overall, a really engaging story. I was not bored reading this. I really liked the idea of how there's this overarching theme of redemption. And with the artwork, the monologues, or the internal dialogues, and then people talking, it didn't feel like anything was slowed down. Everything moved the story forward, and you can see all the choices that each character has to make and what they're willing to do, what they're willing to sacrifice. So Spawn 77, beautiful book to look at, awesome book to read. If you've enjoyed it, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe, and please share the video around. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Spawn bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified and come to the channel. And we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.